All right, welcome to Fuel Curve. I am your host, Brendan Flannery, and today my guest is a dangerous man. Now, when I say dangerous, I just mean that if he and I lived closer together, we'd be much bigger and less sober than we usually currently already are. Please welcome Craig Morrison of Art Morrison Enterprises to the program. Craig, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. You are a dangerous man, aren't you?
I do what I can, but I try to stay within my limits.
That's right. If we were closer, we definitely would be bigger. That's for sure.
Oh man, no kidding. It'd be good times.
We both share an affinity for fine food, frosty beverages.
That is true. That is definitely true.
All right, a little background here. For those of you, for the 5 people listening that don't know who Craig Morrison is, his dad is Art Morrison, and he was a drag racer who did some suspension work, who turned it into a company called Art Morrison Enterprises. And they progressed from drag racing into other markets. And today I'd say they're one of the premier suspension suppliers in the country. And he is a second-generation suspensionist. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd definitely agree with all of that. We've been in business for over 40 years, and we're an overnight success.
Overnight success, a lot of hard work and luck.
Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work and working with a lot of great people.
And so you get to, when did you start working with your dad? I know you grew up kind of around the shop, but when did you actually start?
Gosh, I started probably way younger than I was legally able to. I started sweeping floors sort of like 11, 12-ish years old, just working for a couple hours a day, taking the garbage out and sweeping the floors and that kind of stuff. And then sort of as I got older, and actually got sort of legally old enough to work a job, I started working different positions around the shop, working on different machines, prepping different parts, and slowly worked my way through manufacturing, shipping, office admin, and so it was a real great learning experience.
So you've, over the years, have got to do just a little bit of everything.
Yes, exactly. The only thing I've never sort of done down there, just because I didn't have the skill set to do it, was a sort of professional full-time welder. And if anybody's seen the welds that our guys do at the shop, they're absolutely top-notch. So we don't take those positions lightly. But just about every other spot I've worked at down there.
That's cool. And what I think is really neat is when, people start a business and then they have kids, it can go either any one of 3 ways. Either the kid has no interest in it, or the dad doesn't think the kid's smart enough to take it over and, and doesn't involve them. And then you have your dad, and I've interviewed your dad in the past, and he said, Craig was younger, got all the energy, got the new technology, went to school, and was able to help us take it to the next level. And he really just brought you in and embraced you and your ideas and everything, and really just let you help take it to the next level. I mean, you've had some schooling and stuff, and the technology with the machinery and stuff like that. So that's what really you guys, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun to sort of be able to go to school, get a degree, and then be able to help the family business out utilizing the education that I got. And the biggest thing is, as I was growing up, we were solely drag racing and a little bit sort of pro street stuff that kind of trickled in from the drag racing market. And when I was in high school and college, we sort of tried making that transition into the street rod world, but what was quite interesting about that is nobody thought that we had the ability to make sort of quality street rod and hot rod and muscle car parts back then. And so, it was really, really tough getting into that market. But we just sort of kept at it and went to tons of shows and started to get our foot into that door and into that niche market, into the hot rod side of things. And then one summer, it was after I graduated from college, I spent a full month on the road with our truck driver and went to, a ton of different shows, Good Guys events, went to the Hot Rod Super Nationals in Canton, Ohio, which was just phenomenal, drag races and that sort of thing. And everybody was asking the same questions about sort of, can I get one of your chassis with all the body mounts and bumper mounts and stuff. And I was having to say the sort of same thing over and over again. Well, no, you can't, because we don't have specific jigs and all this kind of thing. And so I came back from that month on the road, and that's when I sat down with my dad and said, hey, we really need to focus on building a chassis that a customer can just bolt the body down on. And so I was sort of jabbing him hard enough that he sort of flipped it back on me and said, okay, well, if that's the way that we need to go, you go ahead and figure out what we need to do, and you drop a business plan for it, and we'll take a look at it and kind of go from there. And so thankfully we had the computer database to sort of look at it, and even at that time, the number one chassis that we did was for a 55 to 57 Chevy. And and I went back to my dad and said, hey, look, this is kind of what we need to do. And then that's when he started discussing the whole business plan kind of thing. And as luck would have it, my dad, sort of the year previous, had just picked up a 55 Chevy from a customer out of New Mexico that traded the car for a rear clip for a Chevy 2 and a roll cage and a little bit of cash. And I mean, the car was absolutely perfect as far as being rust-free and dent-free and all that. So we used that 55 Chevy sort of as not only the prototype, but also the test car to go out and do the performance numbers and everything else. And Art and I spent a ton of time on the weekends reverse engineering that particular chassis and getting it designed and the prototype built. And then later on that year, we took the chassis to the the Hot Rod Industry Show back in Indianapolis. And sort of at that same time, we had gotten some contacts at Super Chevy Magazine, and we built Art's 55 using one of these new bolt-on chassis that we had developed. And I wrote all the stories and took all the pictures and everything else, and we built the car in his garage from scratch, and then drove it from our facility in Tacoma, Washington, down to Los Angeles and tested it. And that was sort of the really big transitional move for us. And ever since then, the focus has been more on roadworthiness, performance, handling, cornering, braking, and the drag racing part of it now is, maybe 2 to 3% of our business at most.
Wow.
We still do the occasional pro street car, which is kind of cool, but the performance handling and the cornering cars and the bolt-on chassis is where our business is at these days.
And so you guys also will develop a chassis for anything. I mean, obviously you got really good at making jigs, and if somebody has their specifications, any kind of car, I mean, you guys can custom make and custom tailor a chassis for them.
That's correct. We do probably 10 to 12 bolt-on chassis right now for different cars and trucks. But if a customer has anything from roughly from 1935 all the way up to present day, we can do a chassis for it. I mean, some of the oddball stuff, we just did one for a 78 Dodge Aspen.
Wow.
Yeah, we're doing... we did one a couple years ago for a 2010 Nissan Cube that was getting an LS9 motor in it. That was, I think, one of our craziest ones.
How does one put a chassis under a unibody? You just cut the whole floor out and...
Yeah, but it really depends on the particular car itself, but most of the guys that are converting a unibody car to a full-frame vehicle will cut the whole floor out of it, and then that gives them the ability to section the body down over the chassis, so the pinch weld of the body is even with the bottom edge of the chassis, so it's nice and low. There's nothing hanging below the scrub line then, and just makes, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it does make for a better overall product at the end.
It's got to be easier on you guys not having to hit body mounts and bumper brackets and stuff like that for you guys.
Exactly. And a lot of the full frame cars, I mean, we just sent today. We just sent a chassis out for a '37 Chevy Coupe, and that's one of our custom frames that doesn't have any of the mounts on it. But we do sell like a loose body mount kit and a loose engine mount kit and a loose transmission mount kit. So a customer can buy all of those things from us, and when he gets the chassis, he can set his body down on it and get these body mount kits from us and just basically trim them to fit, set the height that he needs to have the mount set at, and sort of move forward.
Now, do your customers help push your technology as far as like your suspension designs and things like that? I know you guys got like an independent setup and stuff like that. Does that come from the customer, or you guys just want to do something different? How's that work?
In a general word, yes. We kind of take it both from both angles. With the independent rear that we did, it was something that we wanted to do in-house, and we wanted it to be different than anything else out on the market. And so that's why we went with a modern multi-link design over like a Corvette-style double A arm, or even like a Jag type rear suspension. And it's completely different and unique, and we offer either the Strange S60 case for the differential, which is a Dana 60 ring and pinion gear, and it can take an incredible amount of horsepower with that diff in there. It's good for about 1,800 horse. Or for guys that don't need something that overkill, we can use a 5th gen Camaro differential. But sort of coming from the customer side of things, we're always very open to work with customers and get customer ideas on things. We're doing, actually just assembled it today. It's a chassis for Rick Dorr, and I'm not sure if I can say this or not, but I'll go ahead and kind of sneak it out there.
Be vague. You can be really vague.
It's actually going to be a mid-engine design, and he asked, or one of his fabricators was asking about sort of things that we could do to have a mid-rear engine chassis design utilizing our IRS, and not going into complete detail on it, but we were able to accommodate it and have this whole new suspension option available for customers that want to really do something outside the box.
You know, I see something in the buggy market in your future. Those guys are eating that stuff up right now.
Exactly. So, yeah, we're always, and with our custom frames too, we get customers all the time that will call us up and say, hey, I've got a Kugel IRS already, or I got a smoking deal on a wrecked Dodge Viper and I want to use the suspension out of that, or whatever. And so we can do just sort of a base chassis and have the kick-ups of both the front and rear of that frame done, so they're in the general area that you'd need to have a frame rail for fabricating mounts for those different suspensions. And so we're always really open to working with a particular customer to have them sort of do whatever they want on a project.
What's been the hardest car you've had to build a chassis for?
The coach-built cars that we did for Boyd and also Rick Dorr have been challenging because there's no body to go off of. And I remember the first time we did one for Boyd, I believe it was the What the Hay, and Boyd called Art and he said, gosh, I need a chassis, but it's going to be coach-built by Marcel. And we said, okay, well, what's the track width? And Boyd said, I don't know. The body hasn't been built yet. And it's okay. Well, what do you want for a ride height? I don't know. Just make it cool. And so there was a lot of back and forth, sort of asking questions with no information. And so what we finally kind of nailed Boyd and Rick and a couple other of these guys that have done coach built projects down to is sort of a general size of what they want for a car and a generalized track width. And then once we get them nailed down, then it becomes very easy because you just build sort of a base platform, and then the car gets shipped down to Marcel, and then they basically just build the body around the chassis that we've supplied. And then another one that's been sort of real difficult that we just started working on right now is for a great guy in the industry, really exciting guy to talk to, John Callies, from Callies Cranks and former design engineer at GM or Pontiac. Great guy, but he loves going out into left field and working out in that area. And so right now we are doing a fully independent chassis for him, so he can autocross and road race a 38 Fiat Topolino.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a drag car.
Yeah, and like we were joking about it. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen a Fiat Topolino that actually had fenders and didn't have a tube axle and a blown Hemi sticking through it. And this particular,
or was ruffled up from taking a tumble on the drag.
Exactly. And this particular one's going to have a new LT crate motor from GM in it, 6-speed trans. Our narrowest independent rear suspension, and he's making this thing to go out and just absolutely rip around corners.
That's crazy. He'll drive it too. He won't have any problems with that one bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's awesome. Well, let's talk about the wheelstander.
Yes.
I'm more excited about that than anything you're working on in the last 10 years. I am a fan, and people may not know this, but your dad was a drag racer.
Yes, exactly.
And in the late 60s, early 70s, exhibition runs and things like that paid big money, but in match racing, and they also did wheel standers. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, your dad built and ran his own wheel stander.
Yes.
And and how'd that come about?
Well, okay, so back in the day when my dad sort of first started his business, and it was still, it was actually before it even became a business. He had met quite a few of the exhibition guys out of California, Golden Bill Maverick and Shrewsbury and Chuck Poole and Richard Schroeder and all those guys. And my dad started running with Chuck Poole, and Chuck had a backup wheel stander that he would use or had used when he had crashed the Little Red Wagon. And when that was getting rebuilt, he was running this V-dub. And then when Little Red Wagon was rebuilt, then he sold my dad the Volkswagen. So my dad blew it all apart, repainted it, and sort of made it his, and then toured the country as the sort of circus sideshow of the drag.
They made good money though. They made real good money.
Yeah, but the sort of the classic story that my dad has about driving the wheel stander is that my dad went from the Tacoma, Washington area all the way to what was it, Hollywood, Florida, or where the Moroso track is down in the Miami area, only to have the race rained out. And they turned around there and went up to Montreal and did a race, I think, the next weekend. And thankfully that one wasn't rained out. But my dad had a great time running with those guys and driving that V-dub wheel stander. And shortly after that, he and Chuck Poole parted ways. My dad started or met up with Richard Schroeder, and then my dad crashed Richard's AMX, the Dare to Be Great wheel stander. Mm-hmm. And when my dad was laying in the hospital, he started thinking, he's like, gosh, there's got to be a better way to be part of this industry and not drive from one coast to the other and risk life and limb for the entertainment of everybody sitting in the grandstands. And I grew up with seeing photos of those cars and watching the old Super 8 films of my dad wheel standing and all the match races up here and stuff. And then as a kid growing up, getting to go down to the shop and see all the cool race cars that he had down there that were getting worked on. And so I've always had it in my mind about wanting to sort of recreate my dad's old V-dub wheel stander. And so I've been sort of looking off and on, and some good friends, notably Chris Shelton, has sent me all sorts of information about sort of where to look and different websites and all that stuff. And I even think that you sent me a few links off of the Samba for Volkswagens, but it was blowing me away how expensive they were.
Right.
And I was like, God, I don't know if I want to spend sort of $15,000 or $20,000 on a rust bucket. And then about a month ago, just perusing the local Craigslist, lo and behold, there's a Volkswagen truck up in British Columbia, which is about 3.5 hours away from here. And it was a little bit of a challenge. I mean, it was a smoking deal, but there was no title, no VIN with it. And doing all my background research, Customs wasn't going to let me across the border without any paperwork on it, because it's considered a full vehicle at that point, and they would need to be able to trace it and make sure that it wasn't stolen or used in a crime or any of that kind of stuff. And so I did sort of a Hail Mary pass, and I said, hey, I'm just bringing the cab down, and sent this officer pictures of my dad's old wheelstander and what I was going to do with it and how I wanted to have it done for the 50th anniversary of the company. And he sent me a message back and was like, hey, fantastic, you can bring the cab down because you're right, it's just parts, so good luck and all that sort of thing. So I ran up there actually just last week, and picked the truck up, and then ran over to a friend's shop in Vancouver, and then he had sawzalls and a plasma cutter, and we cut the bed off of it. And I mean, it was rusty. I'm surprised we don't have tetanus today, but cut the bed off, and they didn't have any room to sort of hang on to the bed, so then I had to run to a scrapyard up there and drop it off, and I made a whopping $5 Canadian off of the scrap metal. So I was able to make enough to buy myself a beer once I got home, and then got it home, and it's now sort of sitting in the rafters waiting to be redone. But I'm really excited about it, and the paint scheme that my dad had back in the day, it was pearlescent white, candy red, candy blue, with gold leaf lettering on the side that said American Flyer, and then it had a stack injected big block Chevy out behind the rear axle. So it's going to be just this sort of great retro looking awesome wheel stander, and can't wait to build it and get it out on the road.
Are you going to build it to actually a wheel stand, put the lid in the tailgate and turning brakes and all that stuff? Or
yes. I mean, we're going to take. I mean, I've been sort of thinking about how it's going to go, and what I'm looking to do with it is sort of have it be a modern recreation. So instead of it having a mechanically fuel injected big block, I'm going to do like an EFI style, probably like a Kinsler or Hilborn type setup on it. Instead of being a 427 with iron heads, probably talk to the great folks at GM Performance Parts about like a 572 in it. But yeah, it's going to have the steering brakes in it. With the engine out behind the rear axle, you don't need to worry about having to do like a big steel plate or anything like that. But it'll have just enough stuff on it too that if we want to drive it to the local Good Guy show at the end of July, I could drive it down there without having much in the way of police interaction.
Yeah, it would be cool. The problem with the old wheel standers, and I had years ago I had visited Gary Kleckner. He drove the Shavato and stuff, but NHRA has changed the rules for wheel standers where they made all the old cars obsolete. And he was saying we need to have like a nostalgic wheel stander class made to the old standards because they got to be center steer and all these other safety things that you just basically have to rebuild the old cars to make them go down the track. That'd be interesting to see if they're, and with the Dave Shooten doing the backup pickup and stuff like that, I wonder if we could get some kind of exhibition free passes or something and just, be able to do that for at least once would be cool. Some small drag strip would let you do that.
Oh yeah, no, it would be really really cool, and I look forward to taking it to some of the nostalgia events when it's done, just to sort of see what people's reactions are and that sort of thing. Because I mean, everybody that I've talked to so far have just absolutely gone crazy about the idea, and it's just going to be. It's going to be great fun to build it, and also I think it's a great sort of call back to how Art Morrison Enterprises got started nearly 50 years ago.
Definitely your roots, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be neat. Well, keep us posted on the progress on that.
Oh, yes, I will,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Let's talk about your other unwinding pastime of camping and your overland trailer purchase. You brought another thing in from Canada, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. I've been on a real kick of buying and importing things from the
There's
great
nothing
country
cool in
Canada.
America. Everything's over the border there.
Exactly. Oh man. But yeah, I have a son. His name's Alexander, and he turns 8 this June. And my wife and I just absolutely love going out and going camping and hiking, and thankfully Alexander sort of picked up that same passion of being in the outdoors and enjoying all the things that the great states up here in the Northwest have to offer as far as outdoor activities. And just this past January, actually picked up this overland trailer. And for people that don't know what overlanding is basically sort of being able to go way out in the middle of nowhere and be sort of completely self-sufficient. And so this trailer is basically an off-road trailer, a tent trailer. So we're really looking forward to just getting out in the middle of nowhere, doing a little bit of fishing, doing some hiking, and just having a nice big bonfire at the end of the evening and watching the stars in the sky.
You guys definitely have the country. If I was going to camp anywhere, you guys have got streams and good fish you can eat. You know, you guys are very, very lucky to have that at your disposal. And it's a good way to unwind from the grind of the shop and the show touring. You know, I know when you're on the road and stuff, it's just, you need to just unplug and get away from it all.
Exactly. It's great fun, and just to be able to go. I mean, with all of the Forest Service land up here in the Northwest, you can go. I mean, just miles and miles and miles out on dirt roads, and just see not another person or camp spot or anything like that, and just have absolute peace and quiet, which is fantastic. And after doing, like you said, a bunch of shows and being on the road, it's just an absolutely great way to recharge and unwind and sort of just let off some steam and get some fresh air.
Well, don't tell everybody about it. You end up with a crowd.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
America's best kept secret, but don't follow us. What are you going to pull that thing with?
I've got a Chevy Silverado that we just picked up, or I just picked up a couple years ago, and I've been slowly sort of outfitting it and making it more sort of off-road friendly. Off-road bumper and worn winch and all that sort of stuff, and BF Goodrich tires on it to get out in the dirt and over obstacles and stuff, and it's a great truck, and looking forward to taking it out and getting it dirty this summer.
Well, that's awesome. Good luck to you, and we do appreciate you stopping by.
Well, hey, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and I can't wait to sort of keep you guys posted on the progress of that wheelstander.
Do that. Maybe we'll have you back on.
All right, fantastic. Look forward to it, Brendan.
All right. Craig Morrison, if you see him at a show, stop by and say hi. If you see him in the woods, leave him alone. The man's trying to relax.
All right, talk to you guys later.
You take care.
All right, bye.